Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today again on Wednesday. So tonight we will be joined shortly by Edel. He is doing a talk on anxiety in the three-dimensional view. So seems very interesting. So I'm excited to hear what he has to present. So thank you. So before we begin tonight, I would like to invite everyone for a short prayer. So bringing all ourselves to this moment, let us all remember what's important in our lives. Let us remember all the things that we've worked on, embracing more peace and love into our hearts. Let us not forget that this is a continual lesson that we are continually working on. Slowly, we progress, helping each other, helping ourselves, understanding, bridging the gaps between people, differences, misunderstandings, opening our hearts to better understand and communicate, to understand our brother and sister. Constantly moving forward, embracing new challenges, new gifts, new blessings, and embracing those as well. Let us remember that everyone is going through their own difficult times, their own challenges, their own lessons. Let us remember not to judge so easily. Let us control our emotions and our feelings. Try to understand them better. Understand where they're coming from. Understand how they're affecting us. Understand how they affect others. And all in an effort to better understand ourselves so that we may navigate through this life and this planet on our continuous journey together. So with a feeling of peace and warmth and love in our hearts, we ask that we begin the work of tonight, and so be it. So once again, tonight we're going to be joined by our friend Edelson. So without further ado, I invite him to the front of the stage. Thank you.
Good evening, all. Thank you so much for being here. And for the ones who are online, also thank you for your participation here. Today, I have the pleasure, or maybe a challenge, to be talking about anxiety, which is something that is very common nowadays. And I decided to bring this as anxiety in the three-dimensional view. And what would that be? So in order to start understanding how anxiety works in our body, I would like to invite you to start understanding math. So hope the math class tonight doesn't bring you anxiety, but let's see how it works. So I'm going to start with a dot. And what does that mean? Only a dot. So in order to understand where our spatial mind, how it works, and how all the dimension, I mean this 3D dimension here that we see, we need to understand exactly where it all comes from, what is the starting point. So this is a dot, and when we put all some dots together, and more dots, and more dots, and when these dots are completely close one to another, we create what we call in math as a line. Do you remember this? Okay, so what is a line? A line is a lot of points, a lot of dots together. And we are still now in a linear idea here. And in the same way that we talk about many dots together, we'll bring a line. We can put lines together. And when we put many lines together and more lines together, close and close and close, we create a plane. And what is a plane? We can see a wall is a plane. The floor is a plane. So I hope you all remember this. And why am I bringing this? Because we need to understand exactly where we are, this physical world. So when we have all these planes together, I'll put some more planes together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then many together. Up to the moment that we are going to be creating a space. And in math view, in the math world, we're going to see the X, Y, and Z, which becomes the space. So in a house, we see the house, the room, the bedroom, the kitchen, whatever. We see X, Y, and Z. This is the 3 dimensions. Only 3 dimensions. We have the dimension here on the plane X, Y, another dimension on X, Z, and the other one on Y and Z. When we put all of this together, we have this space here that we consider in our physical world where we live. And where does anxiety comes from? Then I'm going to observe in our body all of these dimensions, because there are 3 important dimensions in our system that is bringing us to that mental level, that mind level of anxiety. So let's see what they are. So let's start with the mental. Mental is where our thoughts are created. So what do we keep telling ourselves every day? What are we looking for? What stories we are creating every... So you see there's a sound here. Okay, so it's fine. I can hear something. Then initially from that sound I can start creating things. Okay? So, yeah, okay, it's only there, right? So let's see here something very common that happens to us all the time. It's about money. What are the stories that we talk about money in our life? How important is money? How not important money is? Or whatever. How much money do I have? How much money I don't have? Am I living in prosperity? Am I living in scarcity? These are thoughts that we bring to our mind, and it starts a process of thinking and overthinking over and over and over. So at this moment, I would say your thoughts, are they bringing to your mental or to your mind, or your thoughts are bringing to yourself image of scarcity or image of prosperity? In any sense. On the other line, I would bring the emotional perspective. This is where our feelings are located, our emotions. So, what are you feeling at this moment? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you happy? So what emotions are you bringing to your system every day, in every situation, with the relationships, with the people that you're connected? So what are you feeling at this moment? And on the other level, at this time I would be thinking about this plane here of mental and emotional. Just for you to understand that at any situation that occurs, if you are worried, which is an emotion from fear, you can create stories that will lead you to more fear. If you are sad and you feel that you're sad, and you're going to be creating stories of sadness. Or sometimes you had something that happened in the past that you keep connecting to that story over and over and over again, that you keep it in a circle, in a cycle that will never end. So it's very important for you to be understanding where your thoughts are coming from, what stories you're creating or what stories you're still attached to, so that you can connect to your emotions as well. So in two dimensions, only mental and emotional, I can start creating this cycle. And my thoughts will create feelings. And my feelings or emotions will be creating more thoughts. Can you notice, can you see that this happens in our daily life, in our routine here? And more, over and over, we start this cycle of thoughts and emotional. Some people say that thoughts come first. Some people say that feelings would come first. I don't want to be telling you exactly what I understand here. But in any sense, if you're in a state of mind or if you're in emotional mindset that will bring you to create some new stories, you're saying that your emotion triggers your stories. Or maybe if the situation that you're facing and you create a story about it that brings you to some emotional sense, I'm telling you that your cycle starts in the thought. So it doesn't matter whether it starts. The only thing here is I am open to see, as an observer, to change that state. Where does anxiety start? Why am I anxious? Usually, it starts with a thought of fear, which is an emotion, of the future. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I have no idea what my future is. Who knows? Nobody knows it. So when I start getting that state of fear of my future, I start putting my mind into the future. And again, my mind, it's starting to create some stories, some thoughts, overthinking about my future. And over, stories in my mental and fear in my emotions. So imagine here that I'm afraid. Okay, I received some bad news, or maybe, any news. I don't want to say something, or maybe someone is sick. And you start creating that. I can tell you a story. I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, I was with my daughter, and in an apartment, very small apartment, and she had to go to the hospital because she was being checked out for some pain that she was feeling. And she was diagnosed with something else, but she had to do an exam at the hospital. So I took her to the hospital for a COVID test, just for her to go to the procedure. The day after, it was 3 days before the procedure, The day after the test, I received a call at 9 a.m. saying that my daughter had COVID. That was back in June last year. So it was in the beginning of the thing. Immediately, I immediately saw my daughter dead. That was the image that I projected at that moment. That's a true story. Now, question. Is that story true? It's a creation of my mind. So if I believe in that story and I bring it to my emotion of fear of death, I will create a state of anxiety. And that's exactly what happened. The question here is not that we can control anxiety, because the more we control, the more we're going to have it. It's a matter of understanding my anxiety, understanding where it comes from. And then observing that fear, that emotion, is it true or not? Is it something that is going to happen or not? Is the story that I'm telling myself a true story or not? And by the time that I keep observing this, and of course in the middle of the situation, I'm not saying that we are going to be doing that at that time, but it's something that you can start creating, exercising in order to understand it, where it comes from. So again, thoughts and feelings creating a cycle of fear and stories and stories and stories. I would say fake stories. And again, I would see this as a plane that together, when we put in different timing, and again, and more, over and over, we create a new dimension. A dimension of a mental prison. A dimension that we call here anxiety. And when we have all of this plane of thoughts and emotional cycle, and we create over and over in our daily, in our routine, we are creating only another level of realization, or a new creation of a new reality, the reality of anxiety. Because we are now getting into our next level, which is the spiritual. So again, we have this mental, our mentality, our thoughts, our emotional, that we could say the emotional, body, and then the spiritual level, which would be our beliefs. What do we believe? The moment that I start believing in the stories that I tell is the moment that I create the reality in our dimension. My invitation here is, in order for us to break that anxiety level, that mental or that emotional thing, in the spiritual level, there's only one way that we can connect to break it, which is our faith. Why am I bringing that? Because if the emotional state is fear, and fear is only an emotion, and of course everybody here has fear, we are humans and we have fear, the only way that I can I can transform or transcend that fear into a different level is by the time that I really believe or really have the faith. Does it make sense? I would like to bring a passage from the Bible, but unfortunately I cannot read it here, and I think the slide... Oh, maybe I can. Can you change the color? Please. And that talks about anxiety, about fear, and it's in the Bible. Yes, it says, so don't worry, saying, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? What are we going to wear? For it's the pagans who chase after these things, but the Heavenly Father knows that you need them. So don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will bring its own worries. Your own evil is enough every day. So what I would like to bring here, there's something about this translation, but anyway, it's good. So don't worry about tomorrow. Meaning what? Does tomorrow exist? Is tomorrow a reality? What is our reality? What is exactly our reality? If we don't face the reality at that moment, in the present moment, we are only going to be creating stories that are not real. And by the time that we just align what we think and what we feel, that's the moment when we start creating the new reality. If the reality, or if the thoughts, or if the emotion is fear, and we create the stories of being afraid, by the time that we align, I'm afraid, and I have the fear, I start seeing that reality. So the idea here is, what are you, or when are you bending your knees for? What faith do you have? Is it real faith? Because for the new dimensional, I was just talking about 3D here, right? Remember? The line, the dots, the line, the planes, the space. We are being invited to go over to different dimensions. What would many spaces put together represent? Imagine now one space next to another one, next to another one, next to another one. Can we observe that? Can we see that? Can we understand that? That's what the invitation for the new era is. It's a place where everything is interconnected. And for you to understand that in math, when we talk about 3D, we are talking about this X, Y, and Z. Usually we go to the movies and we see like a 4D movie, right? A 4D movie represents what? You see the movie, but you see the animals maybe coming, right? That's a 3D movie that you see in a different direction. A 4D movie, you're going to be observing something else, another effect, like water coming out. That's what they call. In math, a 4D, a 4-dimension, is where time is part of the understanding. So it's not only the space, but besides the space, we still have timing. So exactly at 8:28, you see me here. But probably at 8:27 or 8:28 and something else, it's a different space. Why am I bringing this? Because there are n dimensions, not only 4, 5, 6, 7. And we need to understand the interconnection, the interconnectivity that we have among all of these spaces. So time would be one, but what would be the others? It's time for us to be understanding that more than what we think and what we feel is how we interact. And I don't know if you are able to see this, but there are a lot of moments that we are able to connect to people just by feeling. You think about something and the other person is already knowing it. That's the new era, that's the new time, that's the new dimension. A dimension where we open up for the feeling, open up for what we feel, more than what we think. Open up for results or actions that we see it in this new dimension, not only in the physical dimension. What you see here is a body that we can see it through ourselves, or we can see it interconnected to everyone. At this moment here, we can see people sitting on the chairs, but I'm sure there are more to be seen. What are you feeling? Are we believing on only what we see it, or are we connecting exactly to what we're feeling? That's my invitation for tonight. Because anxiety comes from the space of fear. Anxiety comes from the space of the reality that you're seeing that is not true. It's a reality that is created, it was created somewhere in the past. Stories that were coming from your past that is bringing to you at this moment, and you're still attached to that. The invitation now is release and open for the new, open for the creation of this new reality with new thoughts, cleaning thoughts, with good emotions, aligning and creating this environment of faith. Is it too complicated? Or any moment that we are worried, in doubt, questioning ourselves, maybe not believing in ourselves, that's where we open up for anxiety. How can we create a new reality? By looking at ourselves, by accepting ourselves, by understanding that we are just living day by day, evolving, understanding, loving, and seeing what's not being seen. Seeing with the eyes of the heart, no more with the eyes that we know as eyes. The only reality is the reality that we detached from anything that is mental, and we start feeling what's emotional. I would like to just finalize by saying, let faith be your guide. Because when we put faith in our place, in the first place, it will definitely bring the certainty, and the certainty is not fear. And I love in English when we say let go. Let's just let go everything and let God guide. That's the most feeling, probably the way that you can create the faith within you. So, I have seen and I have noticed actually so many times where people come judging, and judging would be, I would say that judgmental thoughts would be the most trap that would put anyone in prison, in mental prison. And why is that happen? By any time that you're judging someone, you're opening up for being judged, and nobody's judging you. But by the time that you're open for these judgmental thoughts, and you open for people to be judging you, you carry guilt, blame. And that blame will put you in that prison. So by the time that you're feeling in that prison, there is only one thing that you can fear, that you can feel, which is fear. Fear for what's going to be happening, fear of something that is not going to happen, fear, fear, fear. And the more you feel that fear, the more you create those stories of prison. So it's time for you just to, if you're listening to this, it's time for you to understand and ask yourself, is that fear true? I'm not saying that if you see a lion, you're going to say, this is not true. Of course, you're going to run. And this is what happens to our emotions here. It's beautiful that we have fear. It's good that we have fear so that we can create some actions. But if that fear comes from a mental state that is not true, of judgmental, that's where we start being in prison. So the idea here is, let's start observing. Let's start feeling. And let's just live by faith. I hope this helps you understand a little bit what we are going through, and that can connect us to a world where we can have peace, we can have love, we can have more faith. That's the invitation for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Edelson. That was a great, Edel, that was a great talk. Yeah, it's a very good topic for what we're experiencing right now with the pandemic and everything else going on. Lots of other stresses and things going on. Some announcements. This Saturday we have our food drive. So we encourage everyone, if you are able to pick up some food. We just had our yard sale this past Saturday, so the second Saturday of next month will be the next yard sale. I also believe on May 22nd we are inviting all the students. I don't know what age groups, but we're inviting the students back to the house to resume the studies, and slowly we will start beginning those as well. And again, we are open for the public meetings on Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday. More and more people are starting to show up. We invite everyone to come and join us. There's still plenty of room. We are socially distancing and wearing masks. And we invite everyone to come back when they feel comfortable. And I will like to invite everyone for a closing prayer. So any magnetizers that we have in the house, I would invite you to come up to the front, por favor. So let us be thankful for this moment. Let us be thankful for this house and this place, and for all the mentors working, all of the workers here in the house, volunteering. Let us be thankful for everyone who joins us here in support of our work. in all the different things that we do. Let us invite good thoughts into our minds, into our hearts. Let us not let fear govern our lives and break away from this prison that we sometimes keep ourselves in. Let us not be afraid to open a hand to a stranger, to a friend, even a family member who we might have some disagreement with. Let's be loving and caring, because we all need our own support. Let us clear our minds to invite greater ideas, more peace and calm, to acknowledge that things like fear and anger, anxiety are real things, but not to let them control our lives, not to let them control our thoughts and actions. Let's let go of those negative emotions and embrace each other with love. Every day brings new challenges, new faces, new situations, opportunities. Each day is a brand new slate for us to ask for forgiveness, to forgive others, to remember that it's not about who you were yesterday, but how you can improve yourself today, how you can move forward through the difficult times, embracing challenge, and trying to overcome them. We are all here together, learning and growing, evolving through each experience, every word, every thought, every new idea. Let's remember to always invite help when we need it. To not forget that support is always around us, with our mentors and our family and friends, whoever and wherever they may be. So with a thought of peace and gratitude and love, we ask permission to end the work of tonight, and so be it.